most of the time, I think people are well-intended.
Yeah.
But I just think it's not helpful.
Yeah.
And because I don't think it's being caused from the same places where it's experienced. So
Yeah.
if we were to see this guy really like shaking this Bluetooth speaker and irritated by it, you'd say to him, well, I get you don't like the song, but I think you're going to have more success if you find where it's playing from and change it there.
Yeah.
And so that's what I mean by causing a root level shift, because that's kind of adjusting the dials that are outside of conscious awareness, which then lead to a different experience, different types of feelings. And that's quite different to a lot of mindset work, because a lot of mindset work will say, you're totally, responsible for this, and go away and do the work and come back when you've changed it. What I'm saying is, in my sessions, it's my responsibility.
Yeah.
And I will adjust the dials for your mind. And that seems to be pretty different to how people are doing it. But so far it's worked pretty well.
Hi and welcome to the Small Business Podcast for small businesses. Today we've got a very exciting guest who I've only met once before, the lovely, very lovely Oli Cooke, who is, well, you're Oli Cooke coaching, aren't you? And we met because our networking event came up locally, and Ollie's from Sudbury, even though he has travelled extensively around the world, but with his, I'd say, probably 5 minutes sit down in Sudbury. He was here, so came to our networking event. So lovely to meet you.
Yeah, lovely to meet you too. Thank you so much for having me.
No worries. So tell us a bit about your coaching, because we have we met and spoke to many coaches in the 5 years of having Breakout, and I always think it's interesting where there's different coaches for different things. So what's your specialty?
Yeah. So I refer to myself as a mindset and performance coach for driven entrepreneurs. So usually it's business owners who are working online primarily. And I help them, in a nutshell, what I help them to do is clear the kind of fears and subconscious blocks at each level of growing their business. And I find that as business owners come up against another level when they've kind of hit that sort of success level, and then there's kind of new fears, or there's new hesitations to doing new things, or they have kind of sort of, they know what they want to do, but for some reason they can't get themselves to do it.
Yeah.
That seems to kind of happen at each stage of growth. So that's when they come to me.
I definitely agree with that. Having hit many stages and come back down and started again. Probably could have done with you every 18 months. So obviously online entrepreneurs, which is why obviously you can travel. So is all the coaching done online? Obviously locally and in person if you can. But
yeah, if I can. But yeah, I do tend to work online with people. It sort of just means I can work with people in various different locations. The people I've worked with haven't exclusively had online businesses. I worked with one that I can think of off the top of my head, who sort of, she works in an in-person business, but yeah, generally it's online. Yeah.
Nice. So what would you say to people? How would you describe mindset? Because I find there's almost two groups of people who, when you say, oh, mindset coaching and what work, they get it straight away and they understand it. And then you get another group of people who are like, oh, mindset's a bit woo-woo, or they just almost don't acknowledge their mindset. And I've done quite a lot of work, and I'm really, really open to the fact I've had therapy, I've had different coaching, so I get it. And I can now almost see myself when I'm getting into that, either whether it's fear, or with my therapist, it was an ego state of just being in the wrong mindset to do anything. And I can recognise that now. So it's almost like, oh, now I need some time off, or I need a bit of a break. So how would you explain mindset to
that's such a good question, because I think it is really, it's a big umbrella term. And I think it does cover so many things for different people. And depending on the type of kind of mindset stuff you've been exposed to, or you've kind of tried out, some people have had really positive experiences, and some people have not, and I think what I don't mean by mindset, if I start there, is kind of not just like the sort of positivity at all costs, that sort of toxic positivity where it's like, no matter what's happening, it's just like think positive. Like, so that's not what I mean. What I'm looking with mindset is sort of creating a depth and resilience to my clients where, sure, we're sort of planning and intending for the best things to happen and work out, but it's also really getting to a place where they are okay and just sort of have a deeper resilience to if things don't work out the way they want. So maybe they're planning a launch and we're sort of looking at how they can improve or increase performance by using their full mind. So also so much of what our thoughts and feelings and behaviors are coming from unconscious mind, and it's also sort of causing change to happen at that level as well. So that's sort of what I mean by mindset as well. So it doesn't just change how you're thinking, it's also for me in my work, it's also changing how you're experiencing things. Because often clients will come to me when they say, I know what to do, or I know even why I'm not doing it. I've got these fears and maybe I've even got a sense of where they came from, but for some reason I can't get myself to do it. Or when I do it and when I achieve the successes, I just don't feel any better, or the fear doesn't go away. I don't feel any less anxious, or I don't, I still feel guilty about things, and so it's, so quite a long answer to what mindset is. But I think mindset is ultimately the way that you're kind of experiencing things, I think, and the filter and the lens through which you're experiencing life and your business. And that can be changed, but not in a way where it's just ignore everything, only sort of see the good, but actually sort of, experience the challenges in a different way as well.
Yeah. And do you find trends like, because I've noticed more so, and I've spoken about toxic positivity quite a lot recently, because I found it speaking to different people that part of that then denies when I've had a negative experience. And no, that didn't happen. It's all right. And from some of the work I've done is that, well, no, we can't take that was all right and all good. We need to learn how, and I'm very much I'll try everything. If it doesn't work, that's fine. We fix it and move on and do it differently. But do you see a trend of people using key terms or coming to you for various issues? Because obviously we've had a massive rise in, as I always say, how the algorithm feeds me is that, you might be neurodiverse, or you might be perimenopausal, or you might be, so the algorithm almost feeds me. So, and people see on social media, that must be my problem. So do you get people come to you and with almost key algorithm trends and then self-diagnose themselves? Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think often they've sort of tried many different things actually to change how they've been thinking or feeling. And personally, I was kind of, went through a lot of different mindset techniques, lots of different approaches, and found that a lot of them kind of didn't quite deliver, or they sort of might help me cope for a morning if I kind of continuously did them, but they didn't really cause that sort of lasting change. But I think certainly sort of people will, there's so much information now available, you can sort of access lots of different information. What I'm looking to do in my sessions is to listen to, really deeply listen to what it is that's in front of me, and what's this person saying. And I think that's always my first step, is connecting with someone and really sort of understanding, not just kind of pasting over what might be a really unpleasant experience, sort of getting it so I can understand, and then sort of going from there, because I think that connection is really key. It's so key.
Yeah. And is it part of that is drilling into their fears as well? Because I'm guessing people don't naturally come to you and go, I've got a block and I'm scared of this, because that's quite a bold statement for an entrepreneur and a successful entrepreneur to admit to.
Yeah, that's a good question actually, because what I do is different to therapy. So it's not sort of what's the fear? Let's unpack that. Where might that have come from? What kind of experience? So with this work, it's more the feeling and sort of learning basically adjusting the dials at the deeper level of mind so that that experience of fear perhaps is dialed down when they're doing things so that they can actually do them. So, for example, it might not always be fear. Quite often, a client will come to me and say, I just feel overwhelmed, or I feel stressed, or I feel like there's sort of a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly what's causing it. And so then we'll have a conversation, and it might be that they want to move ahead with this particular offer in their business, but there is some what I refer to as conflict. There's some kind of conflict. So as they think about doing it, as they think about the process to getting this achievement, something about the process doesn't fit, doesn't feel right, doesn't maybe it conflicts with values they've got, or maybe it requires them to kind of do something that they don't feel comfortable doing. Or there's something about the outcome, something about having achieved that goal that doesn't feel like, maybe it doesn't even fit with who they think they are.
Yeah.
Like, if I achieve that, who would I be? And that can even, our minds are super intelligent. They can predict that before it comes and not go ahead with something.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because you speak to, we talk to all different people, different entrepreneurs, different business owners, however they want to describe themselves. And it's quite interesting because some of the, even just body language that you get from people when they come in and say, we want to start a business, we want to do this, this is how we want to go. And I can almost be the voice of doom of going, right, have you considered you'll need to do this, you need to do that? And all of a sudden they're like, oh, this is quite a lot. Because I think when it talks about entrepreneurs, everyone thinks, oh, it's fine, we just start doing something and make millions. And it comes down very much to the finances side of things. And some of the examples, using myself as an example, is I get attracted to coaches sometimes on LinkedIn, and they will come to me, oh, you're doing really well, it looks like you need coaching, almost with that, I call that,
thanks,
cold call DM style thing. And I'm like, I don't really know how to take that, but I'm really flattered you think I've got like 2, 3, 4 grand a month, some of these people are. But no, if I had that money, do you think I'd need really weird dynamic. But then on the flip side, I get people, they'll see me out and about, and very clearly my money does not go on my face or my clothes or on my car, my wonderful roller skate smart car. So like, you doing all right in business? And I'm like, yeah. And I think people put that 2 and 2 together of just like, oh, well, why haven't you got a Land Rover or a Range Rover? So it's all very much like, this is kind of an entrepreneur of how you should look. Whereas even if I did have the money to do that, mine's travel and holidays, so that's why I've hooked onto your travel and holidays. That's where my money goes. That I know for a fact, if I did and listened to everybody and gone, oh well, I've got enough money, I could get a Range Rover on tick or whatever, that wouldn't sit well with me. So that would not align with my values and how I work, and just not how I am. So it's that weird dynamic of having all these external voices every single day. So it's not a coach, it's not a professional, just random external voices of almost telling you how you should be. And it's on repeat. So it's like you hear it quite a lot, then slowly you start to doubt yourself. So do you find that you get a lot of people, because that ultimately adds to the overwhelm as well of who I should be. Yes. So do you get a lot of that as well?
That exactly that type of situation, I think, is one of the most common things that clients will say to me after sessions is, I feel more like myself. Because they'll realize that actually what they've been wanting wasn't even something they really wanted. It was something that someone else had kind of sort of placed on them as like an expectation of, why don't you have this? You're not successful unless you've got this, unless you've done this, unless you bought this. And often, once it's almost like washing away those kind of other people's things. They're sort of like, this is what you should have, and finding what is actually your working definition of success, and what does it mean for you. And it can be difficult to kind of really own that and stand in that. And I think that there can be fears to doing that. What will other people think of me if I don't get
Yeah.
that type of car, and but on the other side of that, when you just sort of like you're like, yeah, this is me, this is what I think of a success. Whether or not you understand that or not is actually not up to me.
Yeah.
Whether or not you see it that way. And so I think a lot of what I'm also doing with clients is tuning up this sort of most useful way for them to be seeing things that gives them the most power, gives them the most sort of agency over their life. And quite often that stuff's happening in the blind spots outside of conscious awareness. It's like, oh, I didn't realize that's what that meant to me, and because the mind sort of automatically applies meaning to things throughout our life, and you can adjust that meaning, and then it causes a significantly different emotional response. It causes different thoughts, and and often the result is, well, I just feel so much more like me, and that comes with feelings of freedom, satisfaction.
Is that how you almost determine a success in a session? For someone to say, like, that's their feedback to you, to say,
I think that's certainly one. If somebody was coming to me for a 1 month intensive, so some of the things that I do around, let's say, anxiety or fear, success would be if they think about doing the thing and actually do the thing, and it causes either a significantly reduced fear response or no response at all. That would be a really big success. But in a session, obviously, you can't get them to do the exact thing that might cause a fear. But our minds, particularly our unconscious mind, is powerful. If you think about something, it can cause the same fear response, which is why even just thinking about things sometimes can make us feel scared. And so I will, at some point during the session, I will just for a couple of seconds get them to cause that emotional response that's been unpleasant. So it might be guilt, or it might be fear, or it might be something else. And then at the end, I will come back to it and basically, think about what it was that was scaring you. Think about achieving that thing. Think about doing that thing. And I'm looking to get that dialed right down to where it's almost dismissive. It's like, yeah. So an example I had was one of my clients, somebody from their past had come back and actually moved to a next door village, and they were supposed to be going for a coffee meeting with a potential client in that village. And every time they thought about going to the village, they were like, no, I can't go there because, what if I bump into them, And so they were having a really strong response. Yeah. And by the time we got to the end of the session, she said, I said, well, think about going out to that coffee meeting and think about bumping into them, think about, that. And she was like, yeah, it's fine. Yeah, it's fine. So that dismissiveness is what I'm looking for. It's when they can really just sort of like, yeah, I can do that.
Oh, gosh, yeah. And I 100% can relate to that feeling. It's a bit like I'm not great with conflict, and we will choose. So I said it many, many times of when I first opened, and I had what I called my older dog walkers, retired dog walkers, would walk past as I was like painting the office and setting up. What are you doing this? Oh, have you got a business plan? Yeah, just don't deal with dickheads. They're like, what? I was like, yeah, I just won't deal with people that just make me uncomfortable. And obviously we had somewhere on the high street so anyone could walk in. So yes, we had some dickheads walk in. Yeah. And we ultimately, at first, sometimes you accept all the work when you first set out because you're like, well, I need the money, so I'll say yes to everything. And it put me in some really uncomfortable situations, and like exactly that fear of waking up at 4 a.m. What is it with 4 a.m. of you waking up and that's it, I'm awake, I can't think of anything else, I'm not going to get back to sleep. But my mind, obviously, as we all do, it tells you the worst case scenario at 4 a.m. when it's dark. Yeah. By 10 a.m. I'm like, oh no, that was fine, don't know what I was stressed like. But you automatically get into those uncomfortable situations. And when I say uncomfortable, exactly that, even the thought of it. I really struggle with asking for money for my services. If it was up to me, I would do everything for free. The team roll their eyes and I'm a nightmare. Have you invoiced so-and-so? And I'm like, ask them for a tenner. that just doesn't sit right with me. So one of the team has to deal with that for me, and it's fine. People happily pay for my services. It's like mind blowing to me. But I know that I really struggle with that. And yes, I could find ways and different ways of getting over him, that's fine. But actually, that's where do you know what? That's a weakness for me, and that's a job role that I can give to someone. So I outsource that anyway. But some of the day-to-day things of exactly as you say, I've had that before of just very similar of someone's in my village. I don't want to bump into them. It makes me feel I don't know how I'm going to react. And yeah, to be able to get go of that feeling is just it is life changing. It's 100% life changing. So.
Yeah, it really is. And one of the things that tends to happen is as you avoid something, you teach your unconscious mind that thing is actually a threat, that thing's dangerous. So as you go out of your way to avoid bumping into them more and more, that can kind of have a knock-on effect where it's then even just thinking about it then brings on like a fear response, and it's like, oh, I definitely won't go there because that might be more likely to cause me to have those sensations and
it escalates as well.
Yeah. And so one of the things that we kind of do in sessions is actually in a very structured way kind of move towards that thing. So it teaches the unconscious mind, actually, this thing is not a threat. And even if that did happen, I'd be okay. Because it's thinking that thing happening is the same as lion is about to eat me.
Yeah.
It's kind of a misunderstanding, misfire, right? And so once it's kind of clear, no, lion is not immediately about to eat me, I can already start to lighten things, and it gets the message. And with I think what you were saying with like waking up at 4 a.m, I think that's many entrepreneurs relate to that. And I think, it's the mind thinking that there's something that needs to be done at 4 a.m, right?
Yeah.
That's like thinking through some kind of complex. That's happened to me so many times, but I think it's when the mind gets that there's nothing that needs to be done at that time, I kind of refer to it, and what I'll kind of set up in sessions is like this disregard window.
Yeah.
So essentially, whenever I'm in that, it's kind of like, no matter how much you want to come into my laundry store to have me dry clean your suit, like, store's closed, it doesn't matter how urgent it is, I'm fucking off. And so it's like, if the store's closed during the night, it's like reminding, someone reminding themselves, store's closed, nothing that makes sense, nothing needs to do about that. I can think about that tomorrow.
Yeah. And what's your methods? How do you work and help with that? Because I think we've almost, and I mean, please comment if you're listening to the podcast and tell me if I'm wrong, but there's so many people that will relate to all of this, of the 4 a.m. wake ups, of the dreaded like scenarios of just, no, I keep procrastinating and putting that off because I don't feel comfortable with that, and I'm scared of going to the next level and employing people, or I'm scared of launching this product or service, whatever it will be. How do you?
Yeah, so my method is called rapid root level shifts, and that's essentially getting to the root level of what's been going on so that the change feels natural. So it's people will. I think that thoughts and feelings cause actions, right? And but I think that they come from a different place to where they're experienced. So people, it's not necessarily a normal way to think about things, but I ask my clients to try it on as a way of thinking, because people who are much more intelligent than me disagree about what true is. So I'm not necessarily looking for truth, but rather like, what's the most useful way of thinking about this? And so, when we experience thoughts and feelings, it's kind of like people will say things that seem to suggest that we can just choose to feel differently. And they'll say things like, oh, just calm down, or stop thinking about it, or just be more motivated.
Oh, it's the worst. Just stop thinking about it. I can't. My brain won't. And if your brain doesn't switch off, it doesn't switch off.
Yeah, and I most of the time I think people are well intended. Yeah. But I just think it's not helpful. Yeah. And because I don't think it's being caused from the same places where it's experienced. So if we were to see this guy really like shaking this Bluetooth speaker and irritated by it, you'd say to him, well, I get you don't like the song, but I think you're going to have more success if you find where it's playing from and change it there. Yeah. And so that's what I mean by causing a root level shift, because that's kind of adjusting the dials that are outside of conscious awareness, which then lead to a different experience, different types of feelings. And that's quite different to a lot of mindset work, because a lot of mindset work will say, you're totally, responsible for this, and go away and do the work and come back when you've changed it. What I'm saying is, in my sessions, it's my responsibility.
Yeah.
And I will adjust the dials for your mind. That seems to be pretty different to how people are doing it, but so far it's worked pretty well.
If it works.
Yeah.
It's interesting how different, because I think when I've spoken to people about coaching before, it's very much like exactly that. Here's your hour, we will talk about it, you go away with a to-do list, come back next week and we'll see how you're getting on. So that's very, very different.
Yeah, and I do so that would be more if it was like an intensive. I'd be looking to cause a significant shift in how this person is experiencing a particular challenge that they have, or if there's something in the way of them, like let's say doing a launch or offering a new type of service, and they're like, I really want to do it, but I just can't seem to get myself to do it. That would be the sort of like, let's make a significant shift there. With longer term clients, I tend to blend in coaching as well, and that so it's also looking to really like refine thinking on things and asking powerful questions that can kind of unlock personal epiphanies around things. I tend to kind of, as I'm listening, listen to what's being said, but also what's underneath it,
what's not being said.
What's not being said. Right, exactly. How's the body communicating it? And there's all sort of subtle kind of ways that our bodies and our tone can say one thing, but then what we're saying can be something different, and that can be really useful to help someone to get their mind fully on board, like green lights all the way down. Because when there's that conflict, often people say things like, I'm just self-sabotaging, and I can tell I'm sabotaging it. So I don't tend to use that phrase, because I think it's our unconscious mind is primarily concerned with us not getting dead. It's primarily concerned with our survival. So it's not actually sabotaging. It's thinking that thing is more dangerous than I'm willing to do. Therefore, I'm not going to do it. And so often the thing isn't actually dangerous. So if somebody's, wanting to show up more on video, for example, their mind might be like, that's more dangerous. I'm not taking that risk. But once you can kind of dial down that fear response, then you can move forward with that thing much more easily.
Yeah. And I think there is so much that the body knows you. I had and I won't go into it. Anyone who knows me really, really well knows the episode I'm going to refer to, but there was an episode in my life where I was just ill all the time. I'm not an ill person, but it felt like every 2-3 weeks I was like full of cold, or I had the flu, or I just felt, and it was just all centered around me just feeling absolutely awful. But ultimately I wasn't in the right place, like literally in my life wasn't in the right place, location, where I should have been, what I should have been doing. And I still think it was a conflict. It all stemmed from grief, but in that conflict of exactly what you were saying, of my body knew I wasn't in the right place and doing the right thing. So I'd say all the fit. How's everything getting on? Yeah, everything's great. It's fine. Wasn't great at all, and it is almost, you saying, my body manifesting that to go hello, and like say, not self-sabotaging, because I was in a grief state at the time, so it was just and if now from what you've said and looking back, it's almost this massive conflict of my body, but to have the conversation to fix that was such a difficult conversation to have, because I was almost too far gone to get myself out of it, if that makes sense. So but I felt like it was frustrating, because I'm like, I'm not an ill person, and I wasn't tuned in at the time. Not an ill person, why I'm always ill, and working for yourself, that didn't help, because I'm like, if I'm ill I can't work. So there was a lot going on that I just thought was a cold.
No, it's mainly how you can kind of realize that with hindsight and sort of look back and be like, that's what was going on, and it's kind of, but when you're in it, it's so difficult to see. And
no, you just think you're poorly. I've just got a cold or a bit of flu or something. Mad.
Yeah.
Really mad.
Yeah, and it's really it's powerful what your mind will kind of stop you doing as well. So I'm thinking of a session I had with a client a couple of months ago, and they didn't know why, but there was one particular they've got a successful business, but there's one particular offer that they're really passionate about, and they're like, I really want to do this, I really want to get this course out there. And they couldn't do it. And then when we sort of had a conversation, realized what was going on, it was like, oh yeah, no, like that's why, there was fundamentally that, like, she couldn't have gone forward with the way she was kind of seeing it, with the way it was being seen. So updating that meant, like, yeah, okay, now I can actually go ahead and do it. But there was a conflict. It was like, no, I can't do that because of this reason or that reason. But she wasn't aware of it at the time.
Yeah.
It's like once you kind of bring it out of the shadows and out of the sort of blind spots, then something can be done about it.
Yeah.
That's the first step, I think.
Yeah. And you say people, so you can either do intense with you or a longer term. So what are the options for me? How would I work with you?
Yeah. So in my 1 month intensive coaching, it's more around if there's something that you're moving towards, you've got a goal, you've got a vision, and it feels like you can't move forward on it because there's, some kind of like something outside of conscious awareness that's blocking you. Maybe there's a fear, maybe you're not quite sure what the fear is, or maybe it's something else. Maybe you feel like if you went for it, you'd feel guilty, or you might let someone else down, or, there's something that you haven't been able to, despite trying other things to get past and do. Then that would be a 1 month, and that would be what we would do, something like that. For longer term, it's more for entrepreneurs who are scaling, who are kind of coming up against those next, each kind of stage. And so they'll come to a session. One of my long-term clients, she said that her family will like guard the door for like Wednesday sessions, because they know that when she comes into the session, she's going to leave feeling significantly better. So no matter how she's feeling, they're like, no, she's not skipping that on her calendar. And so it's kind of like a tune-up each week. It's like, if there's overwhelm, if there's kind of pressure, it's a place to sort of quickly shift things by sort of seeing what's the mind been trying to do. Because often when there's a strong emotional response around something, it's because the unconscious mind's been trying to get you to do something. If it's but that thing may not actually have possibility. So it might be trying to get you to do something about something that happened a week ago that can't be changed, or it might be trying to get you to do something about a year from now which doesn't exist. And so it can, sort of getting back to that center, getting back to that each session.
Yeah.
And then also sort of I do work with, like, sort of, looking ahead, what's the goal, what's the vision, and sort of like fine-tuning that so that it's crystal clear and got green lights all the way down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how do you find people, this is going to sound awful, but I don't mean it how it sounds, but do the majority of clients come to you voluntarily, like they've seen that they need to see you, or have they been recommended, like, oh, it's worth coming to just speak to you, and then that kind of makes them realise, almost not that they don't want to, but more of a, oh, you should speak to Oli, I can see the situation in. So then they come to speak to you, and through just a 5-minute 10-minute conversation go, oh yeah, I do need to speak to you. Because I find there was a joke or a meme I always find funny, that a lot of people in therapy because of the people that refuse to go to therapy. And sometimes I feel like that's the same with coaching. Like, you can tell people, look, you need help, you need to see this person. And even we have it with some of the things we do for people. They don't want to outsource or pass something on. They want to do it all themselves. And I've got, someone I met for lunch last week, we first spoke 4 years ago. And it's like, yeah, I'd need to speak to you. Yeah, I need to speak to you. And then and for me, it's quite a long drawn out process. And then they do. And guaranteed 9 times out of 10, and I'm blowing my own trumpet here, a month, 6 weeks. Oh, I should have done this sooner. And you're like, okay. Do you get the same?
I've had a real mixture, but I would say now, because I work mostly one-on-ones. That's the way that I really prefer to work, and I find that I can make the biggest impact. So I have limited availability, so I tend to find that people who come to me are already very much like those sort of go-getters. They're sort of like, if I have a solution, I'll pay to get it fixed ultimately. And so, be a sort of like, I think one client that I've got kind of doesn't stay continuously, but will come back every few months and be like, this is what I need help with, this. Can we do that? It's like, so it tends to be more the sort of like go-getters, like sort of, but I need a fix for this solution, or but I certainly have worked with clients as well who sort of maybe someone suggested, it could be really useful, but I think that it tends to be a sort of slow burn then, doesn't it? And then there comes a moment where it's like, okay, now actually the pain of staying the same is more now than the pain of changing, and so it's time to change. And I think
it's that realization.
If it's not more, then then it's sort of easy enough to just sort of keep going how things are going, even if it hasn't been particularly good. I think there does get to that tipping point.
And are there, like, whether it's do people tend to come to you with the same pain points, or is there some pain points you prefer people to come? I call this pain points because you were saying about finding solutions, so that's how I describe it. But do you have not, I suppose, target market, but target problems where there's key people, like you say, when people come to you as a list, like what would I come to you for? What would you say? Oh, I could help with.
So I generally refer to them as like the side effects of success. So I talk about building a version of success that's like success without side effects. And when I'm talking about that, it's kind of sort of a response to success at all costs, because I find that my clients quite usually they want a balanced life. They've also got families, or they've got personal passions that they're also wanting to do, and so the things that I would put in that category of side effects would be the sort of overworking and not being able to kind of stop overworking.
I can relate.
Perfectionism and sort of, like kind of refining things beyond where they are. Like they can keep high expectations, but it's gone beyond that. It's like beyond my high achievements, but beyond my sort of high standards. Then it's like, then it's gone into perfectionism, and they're not quite sure how to stop doing that. Or it's overwhelm, anxieties and fear. Those are, I'd say, the main ones. But also guilt and shame can be things that come up for entrepreneurs quite a lot. That can feel significantly different.
Have you got any examples of guilt and shame? Because I know I talk about mum guilt, work guilt, and relationship guilt. So I always think you can't have all three going well all at once. And I know not everyone's obviously a parent, but my thing is, if I'm not working, I feel guilty because I'm like, I've got a to-do list. I've always got a to-do list. Everyone's always got a to-do list. So I'm like, oh, I could just spend an hour on that, or okay, now I'm doing that and actually I should be spending time with my daughter. And then we go through, I did a post about it yesterday about work and relationships and work and friendships, of how it's very easy as an entrepreneur to keep working and working and working and let friends down and let family down. And is that the kind of guilt and shame, or is there other?
Yeah, that's a good question. So what I would think of as the slightly more like dysfunctional guilt is about things that have already happened. So it might be something that happened a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and there've been ongoing thoughts of like, I should have done something different, or I shouldn't have done something I did do.
That's my 4 a.m. to-do list, where my brain kicks in of like, right, here's a list of things that went wrong. Let's remind you of all of these at once.
So if that also comes with a feeling of guilt, that's when I think of it as dysfunctional, because it's not actually, there's no possibility to do something about previous. There is something that you can do about going forward, sure, but there's nothing to be done about changing things that have previously happened. And so energy's been going to that. That's where energy, is kind of wasted, going to that, where it could be going into like your projects now and building the future that you want. So there's that type of guilt where it's kind of things that have already happened, which I think can be a significant energy drain, and often is not necessarily conscious. It's kind of like a TV on standby, and someone can say something, and then all of a sudden TV pops on. It's like,
yes. Oh, I love that analogy.
yeah, you know, and that's how you know it's still got charge.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah.
Do you help get rid of that?
Yes, absolutely. But updating the mind that there's nothing that needs to be done about yesterday's guilt, you know. And then there's guilt, which I think has a little bit more use, which doesn't necessarily feel good, but there's possibility to do something now about something. So, for example, if I had guilt that I hadn't messaged a friend back for a week or something, that's got some use to it because I can just send a message.
Yeah.
So it can cause a useful action. But when it comes to guilt with clients, it might be something like, well, I don't want to be so ambitious because, you know, my siblings are going to think that I'm just like trying to be a show off, take up all, you know, so I feel guilty about standing out too much or shining too brightly. And that's sort of guilt, which that doesn't help in any way, right? That's sort of just feeling awful about something which, you know, ultimately most of the time my clients, they're doing work that really makes a significantly beneficial impact for people. So it's like, you know,
that's part of being British as well, I always find. That's where I'm like, and we've kind of all been brought up to let's not blow your own trumpet, let's just go on back in your box,
right? And there's a lot of those programs that are sort of still running behind the scenes, and as a business owner they really still get in the way. And there's a lot of what I sort of refer to as like employee mindset versus entrepreneur mindset, and some of those old beliefs about that we got taught to be a really good employee aren't so transferable to when it comes to sort of setting your own hours and going for your own goals and being really ambitious and sort of so when those update and change, that can also make, you know, or if I want to take this afternoon off, go, you know, and spend some time doing this thing, I don't feel guilty about it.
That's okay.
That's okay. Exactly.
It took me a long time. So I was made redundant from a corporate role 10 years ago. I was already doing things at the side, had a side hustle. I don't really like that term, but a side hustle, shall we say. And the redundancy gave me the kickstart to do it. And it was funny because I'm that person, going back to the algorithm again, that posts come up that I'm that person that's too much. I'm too much. And that's the repeated thing, like, you're too much, get back in your box, you're too much. It's just people can't cope with you. I had an interesting text from a friend a few months ago and went, there's a lot of people that just, they don't like you because you're too much, you're too positive, you're too loud, and I was like, and he said, but your enthusiasm and positivity is infectious and lovely, so don't let that like stop you. But when it's that repeated thing of what people have told you. And I always knew I never fitted in the corporate box, but I couldn't understand why, because I left school 20 years ago. I'm only 25. I'm clicking on. But I left school 20 years ago when it was like, what do you do? What do you want to do for a job? Well, who's going to come out at 16 and go, I want to be a mindset coach.
Right.
I want to be a business coach. It wasn't a thing. You were an accountant, a policeman, a vet, a nurse. That was the roles. So when I fell into accounts and then ultimately I'm a qualified buyer, I couldn't understand why I just didn't fit in. And I was a good employee, but I wasn't going up. But I didn't want to go up the ranks. It was a really weird dynamic that actually has then served me well. But you're exactly right. It's taken me 10 years to fall out of some of those characteristics and what you've been told and how you've, all that sort of, that tape recorder in the background of things of like.
That's a great analogy.
That's how I've always been told that. So who's wrong? And I call them your elders, your parents, your managers, your directors. Well, they're not wrong. And I love to see the best in everyone. So I always think people are honest, truthful, unless they give me any reason not to. So there's so much of that. They were wrong. But you don't like to think of that of people, but that ultimately becomes that tape recorder of your own brain, but that's their
Yeah.
feelings, that's their role, that's what they wanted for them. That's not what's good for me. And I think that's, I don't know, tell me if I'm wrong, I think that's what a lot of people have that you unpack, I'm guessing.
Yeah, yeah. And you said, that sort of tape recorder, I often refer to it as a soundtrack that was kind of installed before he was too young to really have any kind of say over it. And it's particularly when it's people who've got authority, so like, caregivers, parents, or teachers, but it can also just be sort of like culture, and or even someone that we've got a good connection with, who we've sort of let our guard down. They can say something and it will sort of go straight into unconscious mind. And so it's there when it kind of keeps occurring to you, the same thoughts. It's that sort of like soundtrack that can be really annoying, but it can be sort of all pervasive. And yeah, I think it's like, particularly when we've got, and when someone has that like authority, and when we're really young, so they can go in and they sort of become sort of understood as like, that's just true. That's just true, or that's just me. And so other people can kind of give us these labels and be like, oh, you're just this or you're just that. And when we're young, it's kind of like, that's how we think of ourselves. And so with my clients, I'm always looking to actually sort of protect their identity. And because I think often one of the ways we get stuck is, particularly at these kind of levels of growth in business, is, well, that's not me, that kind of next version, that next level. And why not?
How do you know that?
How do you know? Who told you it is? How do you know it's not you? And sort of separating out how things have been versus how they can be going forward, sort of separating, that's history. Going forward, it doesn't have to be a continuation of these things, which the sort of deeper beliefs that we have around certain things, they can be changed. They're not set in stone. They can be sort of like rewritten, and they have. We've all had beliefs that we don't have now at various different points. And that's about.
And we all love a bit of change.
Some more than others. Uncertainty is another thing that I'll help my clients with, because it's like, sort of, it's a difficult one, isn't it?
No. I think as well, it's people who speak with confidence and authority, because I'm very much of the opinion of, if you're speaking to me with confidence and authority, then you must be an expert. And I'm very good at putting people on a pedestal, which then I obviously crushed when I realised that was just a lot of confidence and not much backup. But I think depending on your personality type, and especially of entrepreneurs, you get some really confident and authoritative entrepreneurs, not scared of failure, will be proper all over the risks, and they'll go full blow, and everyone think, oh, I better be like that, I better do that. And if they can do it, and then you get the whole comparison, thief of joy, of doing that side of things. And I'm fascinated by that almost relationship process of when someone comes into your life, whether it's a client, a supplier, a friend, whoever it might be, of just, okay, what are you bringing to the table? How can you help me? But I'm better now, and I've learned a lot, unfortunately, from problems, of filtering out that, actually, no, that's great for you and that works for you. That's not me. That doesn't work for me. Yes, you're really confident and you've got that authority, but do you know what? No. And that's fine to have that boundary as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's a difficult thing to be able to do, I think. To recognize that difference. And for me, I've had a kind of lifelong journey with like anxiety and fear and stuff. So it's just speaking now compared to like a few years ago, even, is like significantly different for me. And some I think entrepreneurs, they who are just like really confident, and sort of that can also have the sort of effect of, when people aren't like that and they see themselves as not like that, then there's kind of these beliefs of like, do I have to be like that? Is that the only way to be able to be successful? And then almost wanting to do it in the total opposite way. but maybe not as effective, because there's still a certain amount of kind of like putting yourself out there that is required.
Yeah, definitely. And is that how you got into doing what you do now? Was that through anxiety and life experience, or did you sit at 16 and go, yes, I want to be a mindset and
No, I didn't
coach?
know what that was.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was living abroad for sort of second half of my 20s, and I was in Vietnam teaching English, and I got really fascinated with pronunciation as I was learning Vietnamese, and I then started specializing in that, and then I realized pretty quickly that the people I was talking to were really advanced, they were really fluent, but they didn't know it. So then I kind of started to question, how can I get them to see how fluent they already are? How can I get them to be more confident, to feel more confident? And coupled with that, and my own personal journey of trying so many different things to like see what would kind of make me feel calmer and clearer, and that sort of just led on a snowball kind of path to really getting fascinated with how the mind works, how the unconscious mind works, how behavior change happens, how do I change my thoughts, my feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And was that through lots of research and or experience, or did you do a course? Or I'm asking that question, and it's nothing worse than when someone's asked me, do you do it through experience, or are you qualified? I'm like, I'm a qualified buyer. Do you do buying? No.
Yeah. So initially it was more of an interest, and then I took a number of different like courses, like coaching training, and then I did something called rapid resolution therapy, which was like really revolutionary in helping me sort of bring together like my methodology and what I found worked most effectively with my clients. So yeah, it's been both really, a sort of just personal passion project, and then also some various so many different voices, but like what's the most effective voice I'm listening to? Because I think there can be so much noise, but it's like when you try things out, it's like that didn't really help me very much. So it's kind of a bit of an insatiable kind of journey and search for that, and my partner, I have also her to thank as well, because she's a bit like that too. So we were often talking through ideas and sort of thinking,
bouncing off each other
all the time. Yeah.
Oh, love that. So has she gone through the same, or is it just
a lot of
she's your
things? Yeah, she has.
helping hand to bounce stuff off?
No, she has actually. Yeah, no, she's really good actually, and she supports sort of women change makers with various traumas and things like that.
Oh wow.
Yeah, she's really very skilled.
Yeah. And I'm guessing the same, because you're just off from Sudbury to travel again, or not travel again, but move again.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing she's online as well. So anyone who contacts you can contact you at any point.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, she is. She does a couple of different things, but that's one. Yeah.
Amazing. Oh, so is there any like a couple of takeaways that so if a entrepreneur comes to contact you, spit my words out, if they get in contact with you for the first time, are there any key takeaways? Or because I think my reason behind the question is very much you get people that like to admit, oh, definitely, I know I need help, but I'm not sure who from or how. Or yes, that sounds like me, definitely, I'll get in touch. But for the people that are just almost on the fence or unsure, is there like a common theme you see, or what would your one takeaway for people wanting to get in touch of how what you can help with?
Yeah. So if you know that there is something that you've been wanting to put out there or bring out there, and for whatever reason, you've tried various different ways to get yourself to do it, but you just can't seem to get over that line and actually bring out a new offer or do a launch for something, or you're quite sort of feeling quite good about where you've got to with your success with your business, and you're sort of in a good place on paper, but the way you're experiencing it and feeling day to day is just really, either full of kind of overwhelm, anxiety, or it's affecting you with kind of like overworking, and those would be, I think, good times to come and see me, and I'll be looking to cause a change in your experience as quickly as possible as a starting point.
And be more yourself again.
Yes. Yeah. And even, who you want to be as well, going forward, because I think I don't think of it in terms of like better as like a moralistic better, but rather better in terms of like you and what you're capable of, and your potential. And so it's very much like it, not by anyone else's standards, but what are you capable of? What do you want to actually make happen?
Yeah. Well, it's making yourself feel better within yourself, isn't it? It's like when I go through my to-do list and there'll be something I'll procrastinate and put off and put off, put off. And it's always something to do with me and my business, like client stuff, fine. But it's always that. And the minute I do it, it's that, oh my gosh, I feel so. It normally takes me about 10 minutes as well, but I've been putting it off for about 6 months.
Yeah,
but you
grow.
do. Yeah, you so much, don't you? It's just that feeling of satisfaction of like, oh, I've done it. And you can almost take a breath, sit back and go. And it's, that self gratification of like, I did this.
Yeah. And that's such a good example, because I think sometimes the actual doing of it isn't necessarily time consuming.
No, not at all.
But the longer it goes on, the more it can actually just take up mental space and mental energy. And it's, I think, that's a really good example.
Yeah. And is there anyone, this is all entrepreneurs that can work with you, isn't it? There's no like limit, or the reason I'm asking is there's some people that might sit back and go, oh, that's not to me. I need to be making £1 million, or I need to be doing this, or at this stage in my journey. They could just be getting started and get in touch with you.
Absolutely. Yeah. They could just purely be, setting things up, working for themselves, or they could be slightly more established, maybe got like 1 or 2 team members. I mean, it's ultimately the human mind, so human experience. So, even if you're listening and you don't have a business, I worked with a couple of people this year who were actually wanting to progress in their jobs.
Okay.
But they just felt just nervous to the point of not actually being able to take action to get themselves promoted, and that kind of having a sense of like, I know if I start doing these things, it will really increase my chances, but I'm not speaking up in meetings, I'm just fear, basically. But mostly entrepreneurs, and it can be any level, really, any sort of stage.
I'm not sure, because I find it with when people first come into me and they've got a business idea already, sometimes they have that block, that kind of stumbling thing of just like, whether it's a fear or the anxiety of getting started can be huge for some people already. And they know, and you can almost see them 6-12 months down the line, and I know they'd be absolutely amazing, but just that getting started is it's difficult mindset to work for yourself and to think I'm my own boss. So I see quite a few of them.
That getting started, that date can get pushed out, and it gets more and more uncomfortable as it's something you want to do but you haven't done. Honestly, the people who tend to come to me most often are actually a few years in, because I think they start to realize the value of mindset more. I think in the early stages, strategy wins, and it's kind of like, that's
doing the do.
Just get moving, start doing it. Once people have been doing it for a while, they've realized it's not just a strategy. There's something with me that's making this not work. And so that's when it tends to be kind of easier to see the value, I think, because in those early stages, it's kind of like, strategy's king, but I differentiate it. I have what I refer to as like a hierarchy of action. So I usually think of that messy action at the beginning being really valuable, because you're kind of experimenting and you're sort of figuring out. But then the next level above that, I think of as the daring action, which is where you've experimented, you kind of know what are those things that are the highest priority, what are those things that are the most leveraged, that move the needle the most, but they still aren't being prioritized that way, and a lot of busy work is still happening. So then it's like, I want to do more of the daring work, but I'm still finding myself getting stuck in all the busy stuff, the hamster wheel stuff, and that often requires like a sort of slowing down for a moment to zoom out and be like, is where I'm going where I really want to be going?
I like the zoom out analogy, because we get that a lot of, I have people come in to bounce things off of me, and I'll say something that you think is, and people do it back to me as well, of I think I'm saying something really, really obvious, but they're such in that hamster wheel that they've not almost seen the wood for the trees. They've kind of not miss, but when you first start up, you do everything. So, and you take someone on, but it's that letting go and just actually let's take a step back of our business and what are we doing again?
Yeah. It's a really, really big one, actually. I think it can be challenging for multiple reasons, but often that sort of letting go of control, the fear around doing that could be a big one, and the sort of uncertainty around that.
So how letting someone else do it?
I think the people I work with, because they tend to be quite high achievers, and they're usually very good at their craft, right? Because that's what they do.
Yeah.
So other people rarely can do it as well.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, can I be okay with other people not doing it to the level that I'm doing it, if the reason why they're doing it is so that I can have more time to do other things?
Yeah.
And sort of getting okay with that, like, payoff almost.
Yeah.
It's a difficult one.
It's so hard.
But it can be done.
Yeah, but it's like what you said earlier about being a perfectionist. We had, when I was doing my buying, and there was a lawyer, obviously we had our own in-house lawyer, and I was saying to him about helping me do contracts, and he said, and I was like, is it all right now? And he's like, it will never be all right. He said, every time you give me this contract, I will change something. He said, it will never be 100. That's how lawyers work. We will always find and look, because that's what we're looking for. That's what we're doing. And that was really, really interesting, because it's the same. If I can, whatever part I look at is just, and it's not that it's not 100%, it's just not 120%. And I always used to think, 120%. So for client stuff now, I run at 100. For my own, I've learned to run at about 80. Because do you know what? It's just getting stuff out there. It's just doing certain things, because that's my payoff. And then that's allowed me to go, right, here you go. You can take that on now, because otherwise I was so protective. And it held me back.
Yeah, especially as I think there's that I think finding that for yourself is really useful, to know yourself and kind of where that is. And I often think about it as like seasoning, and you keep seasoning the food until it gets to like a really tasty level, but then over seasoning it starts taking it too far. And I think with the sort of overdoing something, overworking something, over molding it, you can kind of take it to a point where it's like, maybe you might get it a little bit better perhaps, or maybe it will be overworked, but but it's more likely to start impacting other areas of work and life. For the amount extra you get, it's not worth the payoff and it's not worth the cost.
Yeah,
essentially.
And I always find that when I'm talking to people about marketing as well, and they're like, yeah, but this is how I'd market it. This is what I want to say about it. And I'm like, yeah, but you're the expert. Like, for how you'd read that and what you'd do that, is that what your ideal client? Because if you're the expert, you're going to be at a completely different level to how your customers like looking to buy and for their terminology. Yeah. And it's almost like this light bulb moment of like, yeah.
I've had that light bulb moment a few times. Yeah, it's like, no, that's just jargon, or that's just coaching jargon.
Yeah.
People aren't describing this thing that way at all.
Yeah, because ultimately people just want to know, how can you help me and how can you make me better? Which is like, that's been almost the golden thread through this whole conversation, is that your role is just to make that person better.
Yeah. Really changing the experience. That's what I'm most interested in, because it's like, hearing a nice quote now and again can kind of give a nice thought for a few minutes, but it's like, what changes things in a natural way that actually lasts. And it's not perfection. So it's like, because challenges still come up all the time, particularly as an entrepreneur, you're kind of moving towards challenge all the time. So it's kind of, how can you be better equipped to deal with those in a way that, creates such resilience. I think that's,
Well, you're helping flatten the bumps in the road, right? You're just if I've never spoken to you before, something might feel like an absolute mountain. Right, okay, we find a way, we get over that, and then we come to you again, and it's like, right, okay, now it's just a hill. and then the next time and the next time. So it's just that like you say, it's lasting change. So then it's just little speed bumps, fine.
Yeah, and I often I think about two dials when I'm coming to a session. So I've got one of the dials is change, like if there's something obvious that we can change about the experience or the circumstance, that would be quick to do. Let's go with that. That's kind of like the obvious, like quickest route to causing a change in how you're experiencing this thing. If there's nothing that can be done about changing the experience, either it's outside of your control or it's not up to you, then changing how your mind is processing the information on the thing. And so I'll be looking kind of which one of those makes more sense today. That served me quite well.
Yeah, and I think that's really important, and almost for people to understand that A, it's not a one size fits all, and B, there's several elements to this as well. It's not that just that I'm going to go, oh, this is all my problem. You go, you just do this and this. You're like, okay. Right. It's not that simple.
Yeah.
But is there one kind of tip or takeaway that you find yourself telling every entrepreneur? Is there kind of a high level one thing?
I don't know about every entrepreneur, but I think have an intention. So this word intention is something that I really I like a lot. I think it's such a useful word because it's got within it the sort of possibility and sort of what you're moving towards, and whether that's an intention for what you're looking to get done today, intention of how you're looking to kind of respond to certain challenges that you're going to move through today. Sort of getting good at doing an intention. It's kind of a little bit difficult to explain because it's something that I do a lot with my work, and I don't know if that's necessarily going to mean much to somebody. But
no, I know what you mean. It's just having that. I think intention is an important one, key for entrepreneurs as well, because I could have. I didn't set out with it. My intention for today was I started work with a client at 6:30 this morning, so it was just to get to the office at 6:30 this morning. However, it could be either bigger or smaller than that, and I think you're going to drive, and tell me if I've misunderstood this, but you're going to drive more and almost get more done if you've got that intention of what you're planning to do.
Yeah, and it's so one of the things that I kind of do in sessions is create that intention together, but also make it really sort of almost like sensory based, so the unconscious mind can understand it as well. So it's like if somebody's feeling really anxious about doing something, I'm going to paint a really strong picture of them where they're standing in the kitchen and they're smiling to themselves, feeling really happy that they've just done that launch, or they've just done that webinar, or they've just had that meeting, and those kind of old fearful thoughts, they just didn't show up, or they did those sensations. And so it's kind of, when you create an intention like that, when it's got some visual element to it, that can be a really useful way to make it more likely that's going to happen, or that you're going to behave that way.
Well, it's just it's more tangible, isn't it? And when you've got that fear, it doesn't feel real, or it just you will naturally talk yourself out of it, or just say it's not gonna what's gonna happen. It's like seeing what's I always say to people, when especially it's more of a marketing thing though, of just like, what if you approach, hi Oli, can we help you with bookkeeping? I mean, I don't do this as cold calling, but if I was to try and market to you, the worst thing you could say is no thanks. And that's so when we're trying to get people, it's normally on a product based business, of just like the worst thing people can say is no thank you, that's fine. However, and I'm assuming, or well, to say that again, we know what they say about assume. My takeaway from that is actually, what's the best that someone could say? You could say, oh yeah, I'd love that, thanks. Here's an order for 100. And you're like, oh, you're standing in your kitchen being really happy that you've approached that person. And
yeah, exactly. And I'll also make it realistic as well. So it's like, okay, and just one or two challenges happen and see how you dealt with those. And I think so. Yeah, it's sort of like almost like a mental rehearsal that the Olympic athletes use. Like Michael Phelps, when it came to his swimming races, he would mentally rehearse again and again and again, seeing every kind of different outcome that might occur so that he was prepared for it. And obviously you don't need to do anything that extreme, but it's just kind of having a guiding intention of, you know, when I show up to that thing, I want to stand like this and I want to respond like this. And so that can be, for that type of thing, an intention is really useful. But as an overall kind of takeaway, I think one that's occurred to me that might be useful as well is if there's fears getting in the way of doing what's next, first start with move towards the thing that scares you, because that will teach your unconscious mind that it's not a threat. But if that's too difficult, then get support. Ultimately.
Because it's having yourself on board as well to almost help block out that noise. So whether it's unconscious, conscious, or actual physical other people, it's like you say, if you're focused on one thing and you can block out that noise, then 100%. Just having then your voice. Oli said I need to do this.
That happens quite a lot when my clients will say that. I had your voice in my head. Okay.
And but I think that's a huge compliment and a massive like success story for you and feedback for people to say, because not only did they have your voice in their head, your voice was there when they were smashing what they wanted to smash and achieve and get over that fear. So, and I think that's a life-changing moment for someone where they can do that. Probably not. Don't give yourself enough credit on that, but because it's them doing the work, isn't it? It's not you doing the work, but still you've been part of that support network to help them do that. So totally. And it is always, so I had a client who, you know, stepped on to a stage to do a keynote, a big like talk in front of a couple of hundred people earlier this year, and it's kind of like she's like, in those moments before I was getting on, you know, I was kind of thinking about what we were doing on our sessions, and it's like exactly, you know, that's simple. It's nice to hear, but I'm not doing the stage. I'm not standing on the stage, but I can be behind the scenes to, you know, getting them sort of thinking how they want to be thinking and feeling how they want to be feeling. That's amazing. And I'm assuming they smashed their keynote talk. Brilliant. Oh, well, thanks for coming on today. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Obviously, all of Oli's contact details will be in the show notes, all his links and his website. Go to have a look at his website. It's olicookecoaching.co.uk. .com. .com. He's not always in this country. That's our key takeaway for websites, is what we say to people. If you're not, if you're online based, because I'm guessing you work with people around the world, don't you? You're not just UK. So that's always our message when we're talking about setting up websites for people. Is don't put .co.uk if you work from elsewhere, because you'll attract clients from around the world, entrepreneurs all over the place. So
just the last thing I think that could be useful for anyone, I've got a free opt-in, but it's like a mini podcast series. It's just like 3 episodes, but specifically if you are trying to make a difficult decision and there's a lot of pressure and you know it feels just impossible to make, you can listen to it. In the first episode, I'm kind of addressing the physical pressure, and then the second is more about actually how to think about it differently so that you can make a decision. That's sort of under 15 minutes, but really useful for pressure around making a decision, so you can come out the other side of that with a clear one.
Amazing. I know quite a few indecisive people, so if you're listening, you know who you are, then definitely opt into that, because I know that will definitely help you. But thanks ever so much for coming on, and good luck with the move. And
thank you so much for having me.
No worries.
Great.
As always, as I said, all of Oli's contact details will be in the show notes. And please like and subscribe. If you know an entrepreneur, please share this episode with them as well. Send them Oli's details. And if you know someone, as we mentioned, that they probably need a bit of hand-holding and help with mindset, then please share and get in touch. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.